And I'm going to pull up the agenda. Okay, everyone can see my screen, correct? All right. Let me get myself situated here. And I call this meeting to order at 5:05 p.m. I recognize that Joshua is present, Aaliyah is present, Pooja is present, Rookman is present, and Victor is present, as well as ex officio members Candace and Tori, as well as Anjali from the Retriever. Everyone's had a chance to look at the agenda, I hope. Is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve the agenda for July 28th.
I second it.
Are there any objections? I hear no objections, so by general consent, the agenda is approved. The minutes, I unfortunately have not been able to finish. I have about 20 minutes left on the video. There's no excuse for that, so I'm sorry. With that, is there a motion to table?
I move to table the minutes from July 21st.
I second.
Are there any objections? All right, I hear no objections, so by general consent, the minutes from July 21st are being tabled. And now we can move on to JR03-20. Is that supposed to be -2021 or 2020? Okay. Do you need me to sponsor it, Joshua?
Say that again?
No, Candace already answered my question. All right, well, wow, I have completely forgotten. Okay. Joshua, would you like to introduce this document again?
So Candace is saying, Sierra, I didn't hear your question well, but I think Candace is saying I do need to sponsor it.
No, I asked if I needed to sponsor it or if somebody from Finance Board needed to.
Okay, cool.
Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I can introduce it. So this is the JR that was on the agenda for last week. We, about 2 weeks ago, started drafting this, and it's really just a JR to show support and solidarity for the international students at UMBC. I don't want to sit here and read it out to you because you guys can do that, but it's really just saying that we're going to take a position on this in showing support for international students and making sure that they feel better included in the culture of UMBC and feel like they have a sense of belonging here. This was really in light of the policy that was coming out of the Trump administration for saying that the administration was basically going to revoke the visas of international students who were only going to be taking online classes. If anyone wants to ask me questions about it, I suppose this could be a good time. So I don't know what the process looks like for that, though.
I believe we should enter a period of discussion, but Candace just walked off. So Tori, do you know how we can do that?
Yeah, I mean, you can enter a period of discussion, and if anyone has questions, they can ask then. I think that's fine because that's normally what you would do is discussion, then anything, voting and everything else.
Right.
Okay, thank you. So is there a motion to enter discussion?
I move to enter the discussion for JR 03-2021.
Second.
All right. Pooja, I saw you in the chat. You may say what you think.
Thanks, Sierra. So I think this is an amazing legislation, Joshua. Great job. The only question I have is, what kind of support are we talking about? Is it like, how are we planning to support them? Are we talking about financial support or just general support, like non-financial support, or like what are your criteria of being and supporting with IES?
Yeah, thanks. I love that question. So I think that the thing about a JR is basically that, it's coming from an organizational lens of like, this is our voice, but not necessarily being very concrete in something. So this isn't necessarily pledging financial support. This isn't pledging anything very specific, but it really came out of a conversation that Patrick and Kai had with me about how there are buckets of students at UMBC that SGA tends to directly support, and then how there are buckets that aren't necessarily being touched. And international students are in one of those buckets that aren't necessarily being touched, and want to make sure that they know that SGA is a resource that they can turn to if they ever need support. And that support could be helping to direct them to a program, helping to direct them to a certain office, helping to bring them into the fold of the events that we hold. So that's really what I mean by support. We're going to be, just letting them know that in addition to the students that we normally are directly affecting, that they also are a part of that grouping, and that they should feel comfortable coming to us if ever they need anything, because we are able to represent them as well and act as a voice for them.
Aaliyah?
I kind of just wanted to add on to what Joshua was saying. Like one of the I forget which legislation it was. One of the legislation that was taking a long time to like get passed. One of the like the things, I don't know what to call it, the amendments, I'm not sure, but one of them was that, like, that we would hold office hours to, like, just in case students want, like, in addition to our already office hours, this is just like another one. But I think that would also, like, kind of is what Joshua was talking about, like showing our support. So students, like international students or anyone, they want to like come talk, and maybe they want to like get further resources of like, where should I go, can kind of provide that through that. So that's kind of, because that just came to my mind when Joshua was talking about like just like showing our support as well.
Right. Thank you.
Pooja?
Thank you, Aaliyah and Joshua. That actually clarified all the doubts that I had for the legislation. But just out of curiosity, are we going to be defining what you guys just said, like in another document or somewhere in our constitution, of what kind of support we're talking about, like service support, like providing them services or guiding them, or just wanted to know, like, if I want to access the information on how if there is someone from IES or an international student coming to me and asking for help, is there a document or a place I can go to and refer to and look at what kind of support we are able to provide them? That's just out of curiosity. I know that could be completely irrelevant to this.
Yeah. So I have two things to say about that. One, I think that the more specific we get within the piece of legislation, the more limiting it can be. So if that makes sense. So I would hate to put a lot of different points in this one piece of legislation, and people think that those are the only things that are valid and those are the only conversations that they can have with us. So I think that the more ambiguous it is, the more room and space there is for people, international students being those people coming to us saying, hey, I need XYZ, and we'll be able to accommodate them for XYZ, without there being any restrictions or limitations on their part, and without there being any of those same limitations on our part, if that makes sense. So that's the first point I wanted to say. And then the second point is I 100% agree and love the idea of there being some type of internal working document that can be developed to do this additional support. That way it's more stylized and we have something to reference if and in the case we need to do so. But I also think that that's where our partnership with the organization, the office on campus that works with international students comes in handy. Like the International Educational Services Center is going to be definitely a great source to start those conversations and to start those resources and our capacities as an SGA. And then we can also work in tangent with them to help bring visibility to some of the issues that they're tackling too. So those are the 2 points that I want to say. One, I think that I would hate to limit this piece of legislation. And two, I think that having a document that's created in tangent with the office would be very, very beneficial. And I'll bring that up to Mashad and the rest of the top four.
Great, thank you.
Victor?
Yeah, about what Joshua just said, I think we could make like a Word document that's accessible to everybody. So you can if you have like an idea, you can just put it down there. So it doesn't have to be limiting, but everybody can add their own idea to the Word document. So that way we have something down and we don't limit what we're doing. Basically, I think, yeah.
Right.
All right, are there any more questions, concerns, discussion points about this document that everyone would like to go over?
Oh, I just had like a point. So Joshua, I'm pretty sure you saw the email today about the new International Students Connect organization.
Right.
Right. And I was wondering, like, do you think like
I'm gonna kind of interrupt you there. They're more of a religious organization than they are anything else.
Yeah, the
oh,
title is tricky. I had to read into it some more myself. Yeah.
yeah, I saw the religious aspect, but I wasn't too sure. Okay. Thanks for that note. So never mind then.
Yeah, that's a new student organization, and I would for future reference, completely stray away against putting any specific student organizations in a joint legislation because they are not promised to have longevity, if that makes sense.
Right.
As a future note.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was just gonna, because I was gonna say, should we of course welcome them, reach out to them, but now you've said all that, that's a good point. Never mind.
Any other questions, concerns? By the way, you don't need me to ask you if there's a motion for discussion. If you want to make a motion, you can. But I do think that all of our bases are covered with this document.
I motion to end the discussion of JR 03-2021.
I seconded.
Any objections? I see and hear no objections, so by general consent, we are ending discussion. And now we can move on to voting. This needs to be approved. So is there a motion to approve this legislation? Pooja, we already asked that question and we said no. Candace?
No, did I say that?
I don't remember. It was just kind of like.
I said you, Sierra, don't have to sponsor it.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't need a sponsor. Since Joshua introduced it, he would be the sponsor.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would just edit it. So I'd say, you'd move to amend the sponsor to include Joshua, second, general consent, and then you can move to the vote.
Okay. Move to amend the document to add Joshua as a sponsor.
Second.
Any objections? I hear and see no objections, so by general consent, Joshua is going to be added as a sponsor to his own document. Okay. Oh my goodness. going to add the date of introduction. And is there a motion to approve this document? Candace?
Was this introduced last week?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, so that's the actual date of introduction.
Okay.
So last week is the 21st.
All right, so now is there a motion to approve the document?
I move to approve JR 03 2021.
I second.
Any objections? I don't hear or see any objections. So by general consent, JR 03-2021 is approved for voting. With that, everyone for, please write aye in the chat. Everyone opposed, please write nay in chat. I think that's everyone. Abstaining and 2 not present. That is math. I can do math. And with that, JR 03-2021 has been passed. If I can type in the date. All right. So with that, we can move on to our discussion for fall 2020 allocations. I don't know what is going on today. As a refresher, last week we discussed Sahas and a myriad of ways of how we could go about it. We all decided to submit a budget request before the SGA budget was due. We said that we were going to meet outside of the meeting to discuss going about raising the percentage for Sahas or not touching it at all, which I sent something out about that, but Candace, Ali, and I had come to a decision ourselves, and we wanted to bring it to you guys today in this meeting. And the timeline that we were going to give for student orgs, I don't think we discussed that, so that might be another discussion point for us today. But with that, is there a motion to enter discussion?
I move to enter into a period of discussion.
Okay.
Any objections? I hear and see no objections, so by general consent, we are entering a period of discussion on fall 2020 allocations. Everyone can participate as well as the retriever. So again, if you would like to be recognized, please let me know in the chat. The thing that Candace, Ali, and I had discussed, and this was actually brought up in last meeting as well, was actually we have to go back to the email that Candace sent about the numbers and what was budgeted for fall 2020 by the previous board. So hopefully you all got that email. I know that some of you, for whatever reason, aren't on the emailing list for SGA Finance Board, which doesn't make sense, but I'm going to pull it up. I think it's Pooja. I think she's still not on the list.
I think I get everyone else's emails except yours, Sierra, sometimes.
Really?
But I did get the last email, so that's good.
Okay. I guess that's something on my end to fix. All right. Okay, you can all see this email, right? Okay. So what we did last Friday in our checkup meeting was we went through and we looked at all the old allocations from last year and the projected budget, so to speak, for fall 2020. And these are all the numbers that came out of it. The percentages, everything like that can, I believe, be found in the budgetary statutes. So if you have any questions, that would be your first place to look. And given the cut to the student activity fee, which was 50%, and our student org pot, which was going to be $333,000, we're going to look at about $200,000 for us to work with. That's before submitting any requests. And if anyone has any questions, confusion, concerns, please let me know so that we can talk this through. But clearly this number, the 183,150, is not going to happen because all the events were canceled by ECS. But given that spring, we don't know what's going to happen, we're going to hope for the best and assume that we may be on campus. And so one of the things that we talked about in our meeting last Friday was with the $200,000 that we're estimating, looking at, hoping to have to work with, was to keep the number, the 149,850 for spring 2021. We're going to keep that number and work with that for spring and throw the rest of it into Sahas. So that leaves us with about $50,000 for Sahas in fall. So if there's any questions and confusion, please let me know. And if you have anything you would like to discuss on this, we can go ahead and talk about it. Joshua?
It's just a simple question, but so we will be putting in a request for $200,000, and then 50 will be going into Sahas, and then that additional 150 will be going towards the spring semester. Just a point of clarification so that I'm correct with what I'm thinking.
Yes, that is what we are looking to do.
Okay.
And yeah, Sahas, secondary ad hoc allocation system. All right, Candace.
I think, and I apologize for it escaping my sort of thought process when we were talking last, is about the off-campus conferences, competitions, and other that have already been approved for the fall. That, you know, those things need to be looked at to see, and those organizations need to be contacted to see what's still happening in a virtual space or capacity in the fall for those things. So because there's $20,000, $30,000, almost $17,000 for conferences, and like $1,200 for the other. There may still be some cost associated with those things. It's going to be greatly reduced, but there may still be some costs associated with those things that you would need to continue to fulfill your commitment to. So I think you also need to know what that number is in order to have an accurate assessment of the sort of lay of the land, if you will, in terms of what your continued commitments are for fall events, specifically off-campus stuff, and then what you could commit to Sahas, and then what you could commit to or hope to commit to for spring 2021. I think that also, you know, a point of I don't know, information, personal privilege, maybe. I think it is important to hope for the best for the spring, and to prepare for, I don't want to say the worst, but to prepare for something different. But to hope for the best for the spring and to have money set aside for that process, and to also be ready to shift gears pretty quickly if need be. But anyway, the main point around that was you probably still have some commitments for the fall for off-campus stuff that has moved to virtual.
Yeah, that makes sense. Tori?
Candace, this is kind of more directed towards you question-wise and maybe some guidelines that we need from some higher ups. But off of some off-campus things, let's say that some of these groups, if it's a conference or a competition, are still planning to have some aspect in person. Are we completely saying no, we will not? Okay, so Candace is shaking her head just for sake of
Yeah,
the record.
I'd say the guidance and that the unofficial guidance that I've received is that, I mean, the state is currently not allowing for state dollars to be used for travel out of the state. And for, and like, and it would be, again, I know, I think that there's supposed to be some guidance coming up to student organizations about events for the fall events will be allowed, but I don't know.
I mean, I'm pretty positive that's a general no on off-campus items. I just wasn't sure if, like, let's say mock trial still has a competition that's happening at like Towson, and there's some cost associated with that. If there's some guidance around that type of thing. So I guess what I'm saying is checking with these off-campus groups to see A, if they're still happening, those events, and B, in what format, and then seeing like what is and can and cannot still be funded based on guidelines from the university.
Yeah, there will be, there will be guidelines coming out from the university in the next 2 weeks regarding off-campus events for student organizations. But my understanding is that student organizations currently are to be moving events to an online format for the fall. And that's, I mean, that's it, like and you know, that guidance should be coming out relatively soon. And that's not something that finance board decides, right? That's something that the university has to decide what it will, what kind of restrictions it will allow. But yeah, I'd say, given the example that you said, Tori, if another university in the area is hosting something in person and one of our clubs was slated to go, based on my understanding, if there were costs outside of registration, even like if there were costs associated with it and the only option is to be in person, that the university would say that's not feasible at this time. But that guidance hasn't come out officially, so that could change. Yeah, but that's what I mean, UMBC is being pretty conservative in terms of how it is managing on-campus events. And I would assume that the same would be said for off-campus.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also just wanted to throw it out there that some of these off-campus might still be happening with some in-person.
Yeah, so I think the first step is to get some information from those orgs, right? We funded you for this. We're trying to see what, where you stand with it. Has it been moved to virtual? Are you planning on attending it if it's moved to virtual? And then having that information on hand to be able to fully understand the picture. And then, something I think should be coming out in the next 2 weeks, next week or two, about student organization events off campus.
Okay, so with that, I think it'd be a good idea to shoot for this Friday to send out an email to those orgs and see where they're sitting on those kinds of things. And we have another email about Sahas and communicating all this stuff with them as well. So I think this Friday, we'll shoot for this Friday for both of those emails to go out. All right. Any other questions, concerns, discussion points, thoughts? I just want to make sure that this makes sense to everyone. We're going to request 200,000. We're going to work with 50,000 for Sahas while maintaining the 149,850 for spring. Victor, to answer your question, technically, yes, we are increasing Sahas funding because we are overstepping that 10%, because we're just throwing an entire $50,000 into Sahas. I don't know how legislation will look for that, but hopefully that answers your question. Okay. So everyone is okay with this method? Yes, definitely. To Candace's statement. Yeah. Okay, so to reiterate, 200,000 requested for the budget. We're going to try and keep the spring 2021, sorry about the dogs, for 149,000. We have Sahas to consider, as well as all off-campus events, considering registration and attendance fees for that. Is everyone on board? I want to make sure that everyone understands, that everyone knows what's going on, so that we can move forward with this. $50,000, I feel like would be enough for fall, Pooja. I don't see a lot of expenses to be paid out, especially if things are virtual. Then again, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how clubs will come up with things to have events and host activities and stuff like that. But I feel like 50,000 is a good number to work with. And Pooja, if you'd like to speak.
Thank you. I think 50K is a good number, but all my concern is, will it be enough? Do we think 150K for spring is a little too much? Considering the point that Tori raised, that because it's not official, chances are that university might allow some off-campus events, and if they do, will SGA will be funding them?
Candace.
Okay. It's not official that the university will not allow off-campus events, but I can tell you that communication has already gone out to some student organizations that have been trying to coordinate off-campus events, and they have been told no, and and that they have been informed that official communication will be coming out. saying university or student organizations can't hold off-campus events. So that is why my caveat is it hasn't come out, it's not official. Anything could change at any point. That's why I say that, because it hasn't been sent out to all student organizations, and there have been organizations who haven't already been told, no, you can't do this, and we're not going to be allowing it, and something official is going to come out. So it's official, not official, but nothing has been sent out, if that makes sense. If you had to put money on it, you should put money on the university not allowing student organizations to have off-campus events from a safety perspective, because of safety.
Another thing is we won't know about spring break until about Thanksgiving, which honestly puts us in a little bit of a tight spot with keeping spring. But I know that we can make those decisions if we need to come to them with pulling money out of spring. With that, Aaliyah.
I have a question on like kind of like the timeline of how like us contacting the org should go. Like, so because we need to know like which orgs are going to be like their off campus stuff, if any of it is going to be virtual or if it's still going to be happening, but like, you know, the university won't support it and like we're not going to let them go. So should we like send that out now? Because I remember you said that the university is gonna like send an email saying that everything like on campus and off campus is canceled, and that we should wait to send our emails until they say it. So it's like, this is what the university says. We stand behind the university, and the health and priority of like the students is like our number one concern. So I was kind of confused on the timeline, like if we should wait to do that after the university says it, like sends the emails out. But yeah.
Is that for me? That question? Or for Sierra?
I think so. I think it's for you, yeah.
Okay. I think it's fine to send it out before anything comes out. You already know that all of the events have been canceled for the fall. And so you can send something out to say, we know you all can't have on-campus events. So, you know, here's what that means in terms of the allocation that previously got made for your on-campus event. And moving forward, we encourage you to submit for virtual events through SAHAS. In addition, we know that lots of conferences and competitions may be moving to virtual. And so we want to make sure that we have an accurate accounting of the money that is actually needed by student organizations for their off-campus conferences or competitions. And so we're going to be reaching out to them. That, you know, is separate from what kind of guidance the university may or may not give to student organizations about what they can and cannot do. You contacting organizations that were previously allocated for off-campus events is about getting an accurate picture of what your debts are to them. If you don't have to pay for lodging anymore, you want to know that. And you're doing that and you're reaching out to them because lots of these things have probably moved to a virtual space. And so you need to sort of clean up your data. And you can do that without having to wait for anybody else to say anything. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
All right, so recap. Sending out an email to orgs about SAHAS and checking in with clubs who may have off-campus events, seeing how those are going to go. Those emails are going to be sent out Friday. Aaliyah and I will work on those outside of the meeting. We understand what's going to happen with SAHAS off-campus events in spring 2021. the timeline for orgs, that was brought up last meeting. I know Joshua brought it up, but if anyone else has any ideas on a timeline for student orgs, I feel like now would be a good time to talk about that. Aaliyah.
So me and Candace kind of, because I'm the liaison, that's kind of part of my roles. So we kind of talked about this. So I'm making email templates for like now until like December of like what you would send out to your orgs and everything, what you or assign them. So like the first email is going to be like for August, September, where you like introduce yourself to your orgs and everything, and you like tell them you're the point of contact and everything, and it like tells them like how you would like do the Sahas and everything. So I think that's kind of like how it's gonna go, and I'm kind of like facilitating that, like getting the stuff like set up. So yeah.
Candace.
I'm unsure of the question regarding timeline, so I was asking for some clarification of what that means.
Yeah, so last meeting, Joshua had brought up how a timeline would look for student orgs in the fall. I believe requesting from Sahas and stuff like that. Joshua, if you happen to remember anything, you're welcome to speak more on this, but that was something that we had agreed on speaking or like thinking about outside of our meeting, if that makes sense. But Joshua is in the chat and I'll let him speak more.
Yeah, I think all I'm going to do is reiterate what Sierra just said. She basically covered it. But it's like, what's the timeline for requesting from Sahas? When will that be up and running? When will further guidelines be given from the finance board? How are we going to handle like rolling out the liaison system? So it's like just giving more guidance on what the next steps actually are for the student organizations so that there's more clarity on what they have to do. And so basically the main points of that will be when will Sahas be up and running, and then also what would the deadline be for the fall semester, giving those details.
Tori, I think they're in the guiding docs, the budgetary statutes, I believe. Candace.
Yeah, so there is guidance around how the time frames around which student organizations need to submit something based on how much money they're asking for. So if a student organization is asking for $1,000 or less, they have to submit something within 30 days, the request within 30 days of their event or their proposed event. If it's $1,000 to $2,000 or $3,000, it's 45 days, and if over $3,000, it's 60 days prior to the event. And your guiding docs state that you can have some leeway in there, but that you will not consider any event submitted less than 15 days prior to the event. And that's to allow for student organizations to have ample time to plan for it, and for there to be ample time. And I think especially now, since we are virtual, for there to be ample time for things to be processed, if there's any contracts, if things need to be reimbursed, all that kind of stuff, for that to be handled in a timely manner. Is that the kind of information you're looking for?
Yeah, I think that answers my question, especially considering Sahas will be on a first come, first served basis. So sometimes I forget that it's still July, but Candace.
I think the other point to mention is that student organizations can't access the Sahas application unless their treasurer has been treasurer trained. So they can't ask for money until they know how to ask for money. And so that's going to be a really important thing for you all as liaisons to encourage. Siri is working on treasurer training. Is going to be asynchronous, so do it on your own time, so that people can complete it. And then once it's been completed, 48, 72 hours after they complete it, they'll be able to have access to the application. And so it's not an immediate trigger. That's another thing for them to remember, or for you all to remember, and to be able to communicate to your organizations, is that they have to get trained, and they have to give it a couple days for, we have to manually input that into SurveyMonkey. So there has to be there's some lag time between when they take it or complete the training and when they have access to the application.
Pooja asked in the chat if there's a list that tells us which treasurers are trained or not. Is there like any sort of guidance on that?
There can be.
Okay.
Yeah. I can make it. So some of the people who were treasurers last year are probably going to be treasurers this year again, maybe. And so, typically everybody has to get retrained. I don't know if that's something that Siri wants to do again. It's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But it's like, if they don't have to get retrained, then they have immediate access. If they do have to get retrained, then we got to take everybody's access away, and then update it as they get retrained. But I think, there's been costs and benefits to either way. I think there typically is a running list of who's trained in the treasurer's folder, because attendance is taken at those live sessions. For asynchronous sessions, there's going to be a tracking mechanism through Panopto. Like if you did the shameless plug, if you did the Robert's Rules of Order, thank you, Finance Board, for representing and showing up to that, because you did really good. It shows that you did it, what you got on the test. So that could be a way. That's going to be a way to keep track of that stuff.
Pooja?
So this might not be an ideal question to ask, but how do I get an access to all this information, or do I need an access? As a liaison, do I need to know which of the orgs I'm working with have treasurers that have been trained or not?
Yeah, it's all in the shared drive, in different folders. I don't think it's bad information for you to have, to know which treasurers are trained and which aren't, based on which organizations you're assigned. That, can be something that we could work on to include somewhere in the liaison list, for sure. Yeah, I don't think that would be. What do you think, Aaliyah?
Sorry, could you repeat what you said? It broke up on my end.
Oh, no, sure. We're talking about tracking in the list of treasurers who's trained versus who's not trained, so that finance board members could easily see, in case someone's like, oh, yeah, I was trying to do it. And then Pooja could be like, well, yeah, you're not trained, so that's why you don't have access to the application.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Would I would you send me the
Yeah,
stuff?
we can. Yeah, we can work on it together.
Okay.
Alrighty. So, any more discussion points? Because frankly, I think that we have made good progress and we have made a lot of good decisions today about Sahas, and really all that there's left to do is work for Aaliyah and I outside of this meeting. So I just wanted to put it out there, see if anyone has any more concerns, questions, comments, discussion points. How would we go about voting on what to request? Candace?
You could just put up, just say, okay, so we need to decide on what we're gonna, what we request. And currently the option on the table is to ask for $200,000. We want to see, and so, you say move to, you could do it to straw poll, right? Or something like that, or move to vote on the option A is this, option B is that, because it's not really legislation, it's just a decision amongst you as to what you want to request. So, but I do think that having something on the record about how everybody feels about it is important.
Okay. I think I'm gonna go for a straw poll. And with that, I think you and Tori can vote in it as well, right? Okay. I guess option A would be to request for 200,000 and be comfortable with that. Option B would be to not request 200,000. Okay. I guess choose which option you would like best in the chat, option A or option B. If you need me to repeat myself, please let me know. Yeah, so we're gonna have a straw poll. That's not like an official vote, but option A is to request $200,000 for the budget from Rashad and Siri, and then option B is to not. Granted, with option B, we could go for lower or higher, but it's up to you guys. Aaliyah, Tori has it in the chat. It's probably better structured than I could probably talk about it. Granted, it looks like a majority for option A. So, yeah. That is everyone, correct? Yeah, okay. So we're looking to request $200,000 for the budget, and Siri's in this meeting, so I'll talk to you more about that. Probably get Candace and Aaliyah in on that as well. With that, $200,000 requested for the budget, 50,000 delegated to Sahas and off-campus events. Going to try and split that up, keeping the 149,000 for spring 2021. Sahas will be first come, first serve. If you're treasurer trained, you can request, and that's when the applications will open up for you. I think I covered all our bases. All right. So, emails will be sent out this Friday for Sahas and checking in with off-campus events. And I think that's our discussion. So is there a motion to end discussion?
I move to end discussion for fall funding. I move to end the discussion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any objections? I hear and see no objections, so by general consent, we are ending our period of discussion on fall allocations for 2020, and we can move on to announcements. So if anyone has any announcements, let me know in the chat. Candace?
Yes, I have a couple of announcements. One, I sent out an email about serving as a Woolly for fall 2020. I would encourage you to look at that. And if you are interested in serving as a Woolly, that would be pretty cool. And Hallie, the other assistant director in student engagement, campus life, would really appreciate it. And Elisa Woolley, got any questions, ask her. Ooh, Pooja, you already filled out the form. Oh my God. It's so fantastic. And the other thing I would say is that there is a leadership program that's going to be starting in September or at the end of October called Leadership Blueprint. And it's 5 weeks and it's in small cohorts. They're on different days. Like once a week, and it's about like how to create the experience that you want at UMBC co-curricularly, and how you can really lean into and be mindful of what's available to you and how to find what you're passionate about. So if you're interested in that, those are being hosted by B and myself. And they're going to be, I think, really great. So if you want more information about that, I don't know if B has sent that out, but if she hasn't, I'll have her send it out to the SJ officers group. And then there was something else that I was going to talk to you or mention in this, and I feel like it was something that I said to Siri in our staff or in our meeting. Siri, do you remember what I said?
Today's meeting?
Yeah, I said, oh, I'll add that to the agenda.
Oh yeah.
What was it?
The Survey Monkey? Oh no.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah, that's what it was. Thank you. If you haven't gone into SurveyMonkey to check out the application to see if it looks okay, please do so. I've pivoted it. I've changed a number of things from it based on the conversations that y'all had last week about virtual events. And so I've changed a number of the questions. If you can look at it, if you don't have access to it, please email me. Victor, I know you emailed me. I updated your account, so yours should be good to go. Let me know if you still can't find it. And then a number of other people already went in and looked at it, so thank you for that. But yeah, just go through the application like you're doing either a virtual event or asking for money for an off-campus virtual event, the Sahas application, and see if it makes sense and it works, or if there's something missing on there. And if you find something, they're like, this didn't work, or this didn't make sense, or I wish there should be a question about this, then just send me an email with it. Really appreciate it. Thank you. That's all I got.
Tori?
I was just gonna say Involvement Fest is officially on the books for September 8th through 11th. Yes, you heard me correctly. It is more than one day. Trying something new this year. There will be more information coming out as the weeks go along. But if you are in any orgs or have friends that are, just make sure that they're paying attention super closely to the student org officers page right now, because a lot's going to be coming out from here on out. So definitely be paying attention if you're a student org leader in a student org, or going to be tabling for SGA. So make sure you're paying attention to all the things coming out, and that your friends in other orgs know that as well.
Rahman, what was your question?
Hi. Firstly, I apologize for my connection. It's been awful this entire day. But Candace, I have a quick question about Welcome Week. Is it going to be virtual this year, or are there some things that are in person, or how's that looking?
That's an excellent question. I don't know all the details of Welcome Week. I do know that there will be a lot of virtual stuff happening. Are you asking specifically for like the role of a Wooly or from a student perspective?
Yeah. So I, wanted to apply to become a Wooly, but then there was nothing listed about how Welcome Week will look like. So as a Wooly, I honestly don't know how it'll look like.
Right. I would say I don't know. I don't know. But I'd say that. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, but I did saw that they're releasing updates on Welcome Week August 1st. So that's something to keep in mind for all of us.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. And even if you go and you apply, you do the Welcome Week thing and you say and you're like, yeah, I want to do it, and they come back and they're like, okay, well, you have to do X, Y, or Z, you can be like, no, I don't want to do it anymore. Like, that's totally fine. I think no one's going to ask you to do anything that you're not comfortable with. And it's going to be virtual. Like, from what I can see right now, there's going to be virtual group activities, transition workshops, videos, modules, and opportunities to meet other students. Things like Big Crazy Fun Night and the Pack the Rack and play. Those things are not happening. They're not. So but I'm not sure about like smaller groups. I don't know. I'd say if I had to guess, it's probably going to be majority virtual, if not all virtual. So that's a guess because I don't run that, but I can find out for you.
Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciated that.
Hey, oh sorry. I was reading the email and I'm looking at it now, and I think it did say like Woolies will communicate with students virtually 1 to 2 hours per day during Welcome Week and check into their virtual Wooly groups a few times per week throughout the first weeks of the semester.
Yeah, I assume that some things were definitely virtual, but then they're saying hold on for updates for Welcome Week, or because from a Willie's perspective, most of the sessions will be virtual, but there are some things that they might do in person. But I wasn't too sure as to what that'll be. But I think Candace cleared everything up. Thank you.
No problem.
All right. Are there any other announcements? I will say again that fall retreat is coming up. We're gonna make it required, so we're gonna see you there, regardless. Again, expect information, documents. Check Blackboard. I know we're gonna love seeing that again for updates and stuff like that. Aaliyah. Aaliyah.
I was talking with my thing muted. But I don't know if this is like it was gonna be a state like I was gonna tell you guys, but I'm not sure if it's like for everybody. Because I wasn't sure about the tuition like due date, and they told me that it's due the 30th, but I don't know if that is like for everybody or if it's different for people. So yeah, I guess tuition maybe the deadline is the 30th, but I'm not really sure anymore now that I'm thinking about it.
Thanks for bringing that up. Also, tuition was decreased by 22%, so go us. With that, any more announcement? Yeah, Rahman. That's how I was reacting when I saw the post. Are we good on announcements? All right, I don't see anyone else in chat, so you know, I wish they had emojis too, but for a final roll call, I recognize that Leah is present, Pooja is present, Rahman is present, Siri is present, as well as Victor, as well as ex officio members Candace and Tori, and I adjourn this meeting at 6:10 p.m.